All right, well, let's get started. I'll call to order the Board of Franklin County Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, November 4th.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Present.
Commissioner Howard?
Present.
Chair Waymeyer?
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson?
Present.
Commissioner Dunn?
Present.
All right, let's have a pledge of allegiance, and then we can get to the invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States,
United States of America.
to the republic,
To the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
All right, I am.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. Let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we know that you are a mighty God and you are in charge of all things and know all things. We thank you for the changing of the seasons. We love the colors of the plants as they get themselves ready for a new season. We thank you for the election day that we have just really celebrated. We thank you that we are a democratic nation, that each one of us has the right and the privilege to vote. And many of us used that privilege yesterday. So many of us, in fact, that we really don't have a final result for the election, but we know that you are in charge. And then we continue to pray for those that are affected by the coronavirus. We know that this is still a major challenge to so many people, and it has affected so many lives. And we just pray for each one in this county who has been touched by the circumstances that are involved in that virus. Just pray for this meeting today that each one has a thoughtful and just considers all of the options as we move forward in trying to lead the county. And we just thank you for your leadership in all things. Amen.
All right, thanks for stepping in and doing that. Correspondence and organizational business. Derek, do we have anything we need to add?
No, sir.
All right. Janet, do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
Didn't think so. Consent agenda today would consist of approving our November 28th meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Commissioner Dunn, motion approved.
All right. Commissioner Dunn got the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Don.
Commissioner Howard.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Down to items of business, the first of which is to consider appointing Ken Frank to the RMH Board of Trustees. Derek?
Yeah, this is Derek. As you know, the board continues to appoint, the Board of Commissioners continues to appoint members to the RMH Board of Trustees even after the affiliation. Here a month or so ago, you reappointed John Cohen and appointed Paul Bean to the board. They told me at that time that they had a third member that was coming up for reappointment, and that is Dr. Frank. He's an incumbent member of the board, well-liked on that board. Would try to answer any questions that you have, but would certainly recommend appointing him. I would add, we have been in contact. I know Commissioner Stottlemyre has said several times that he would like an update from the hospital, and we are working with them on that. We had them on the calendar, and then there was a last-minute cancellation, and so. But I do anticipate getting Dallas, their CEO, on one of these calls, and then we'll get our update. So if you have any questions about this process, I'm here to answer them.
Of course, just to clarify, there's basically two boards associated with the hospital. As the operations lie with Advent Health, they have their own board that deals with that. And then this is the board that the county appoints. Essentially, we still own the facility, and the main thing this board would do is dispense the sales tax dollars that are levied for the hospital's purpose. So, any questions before we look to vote? And would somebody like to make a motion to appoint Ken Frank to the RMH Board of Trustees?
Commissioner Howard, I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second it.
Commissioner Howard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, our second item of business consists of the fiscal year 2020 year-end outcome report from Community Corrections. Dustin Browning, the Director, Community Corrections, should be on the line.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is Dustin Browning, and this is an annual report that we are required to send to the Kansas Department of Corrections after our fiscal year wraps up. There are 3 goals that we were tracking throughout fiscal year 20. You can see those on the report. There's just some data there to share. The first goal was training staff to deliver a cognitive behavioral program to clients. Our staff were all trained in that before the end of the fiscal year, which ended June 30th. The other goals were tracking some data on our clients and what they were participating in, and then how they were successful throughout the year. And I'll just highlight for you at the very end of the report that our success rate for our clients increased in fiscal year 20 over what we saw in fiscal year 19. And so with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Of course, that report's attached to the agenda, and we've been able to review it. Are there any questions for Dustin? Very well. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the Community Corrections fiscal year 2020 year-end outcome report?
Commissioner Dunn, motion to approve.
All right. Can I get a second?
Mr. Stottlemyre, second.
Commissioner Dickinson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. And our third item of business is a rezoning application. I'll let our Planning and Zoning Director, Larry Walrod, summarize what we're looking at.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is Larry Walrod, the County Planning Director. The item that we have first this morning is a consideration of rezone approximately 3 acres from the A1 to the R3A, single-family residential zoning district, and to rezone the remaining acreage after the 3 acres is removed from the existing parent tract to 39.29 acres from A1 to the A2 transitional agricultural zoning district, because it will no longer meet the fractional requirements for 40 acres that's required for the A1 zoning district. As noted in your staff report, the purpose for this is to allow for the sale of the agricultural land, with the owner retaining the existing residence. I think it's best depicted on the aerial photo that's attached as a part of your staff report. But the Planning Commission did consider this at their last meeting, and after reviewing the proposal, did approve it and submitted a recommendation to the County Commissioners for the rezoning of the 3 acres from the A1 to the RE zoning district, and to rezone the remaining acreage then to the transitional agricultural zoning district. I have nothing further to add unless any of you have questions.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve rezoning application 2009-1787 and amend the county zoning map accordingly?
Commissioner Howard, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second
Commissioner
it.
Dunn?
All right, I think Commissioner Dickinson got that.
Commissioner Dunn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Our fourth item of business is also a rezoning application. Go ahead, Larry.
This is a matter filed by Mr. Hip to rezone two 10-acre tracts to the, from the RE, which is the residential estate zoning district, to the A2 transitional zoning district, because the resulting parcels that are being put together here, merged together, are actually lots 4 and 5 of the old Vermont acre subdivision. And in order to do that, the first thing you have to find is that the zoning will be consistent so that you can approve the related matter that's the next on your agenda, which is a replat of those lots 4 and 5 of the Vermont acres subdivision. The reason for this is that the building site that they have selected would be located right at the existing common boundary between lots 4 and 5 as it exists today. There are also building setbacks associated with that property line, as well as easements, public utility easements, and those were established when the original subdivision plat was approved. The Planning Commission did give consideration to the rezoning request at their last meeting and have forwarded a recommendation to you for the approval of the rezoning to rezone the approximate 20 acres from the RE residential estate zone to the A2 transitional zoning district. We would find that that would be consistent with the provisions of our zoning regulations as well as our subdivision regulations and the provisions of state law, and therefore would recommend that you consider the Planning Commission's recommendation for the rezoning as I've indicated. I have nothing further to add unless any of you have questions. I think the aerial photo that's attached as a part of the staff report shows the location and the tracks as they exist today. And there is also then a final plat that's attached as a part of this that will be the next matter on your agenda.
All right. Any questions on this one?
This is Commissioner Stottlemyre. I have no questions. I know I went out there and looked at the site yesterday, and I think it'll be a definite improvement what they're doing. That'll cut down the amount of entrances onto Vermont Road there by doing this. Plus, it's a very nice site. Looks like they've already proceeded with the housing part of it, and if nobody else has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
Mr. Dunn, second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Our fifth item is the aforementioned replatting. Go ahead, Larry.
As you've indicated, this is the replat of the parcels merging the two lots that were formerly shown as lots 4 and 5 of the original subdivision, and putting those into one lot. The Planning Commission did give consideration to this, and it's required by state law that when a subdivision has been approved by the county commissioners, any modifications to the boundaries and easements that have been previously approved have to come back for reconsideration by the county commissioners for approval. And that's the purpose for this matter coming to you this morning, is that those lots are now to be merged together into a single tract of land. And in order to eliminate the lot boundary as well as the easements that were on the common boundaries between lots 4 and 5, would be necessary to have a replat. I have nothing further to add unless any of you have questions. I think it's a pretty straightforward process.
All right. And a motion, affirmative motion in support of this item would be to authorize the chairman to endorse the final plat of Vermont Acres Number 2 subdivision, accepting all easements and right-of-ways as shown on the plat.
Commissioner
Anyone like-
Dickinson, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, second.
Commissioner Howard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. Next item is to consider approving a special use permit, application number 2009-1792, to permit the placement of a 30,000-gallon propane tank storage facility in a C2 zoning district. Go ahead, Larry.
As you've indicated, this is a request for a special use permit. Several of you may recall that a few years ago, we did amend the county zoning regulations to accommodate the storage of certain gases, propane being one of the primary ones. Subsequent to that time frame, we have approved for, I think, 5 different special use permits for these distribution facilities for the storage of propane gas that are located throughout different locations here in the county. This property is probably very familiar to most of you. It's a commercial property that's been occupied more recently by the storage of timber products, primarily walnut logs that have been cut in the local areas. But there is a portion of that site that has remained pretty much vacant over that same time frame. The applicants had a misunderstanding, I think, that they thought this was something that could go forward, so they had moved the storage tank in prior to, and that's why it brought a lot of attention, I think, prior to the application being submitted for the special use permit. They weren't aware that it did require a special use permit, and subsequently we have worked with them very closely to assure that they are, if approved, in compliance with our zoning regulations as well as our comprehensive plan, policies and objectives. The purpose for this would be just primarily for what we call the refilling of various tanks throughout the county. There will be no on-site customers where you would go in on an individual basis to get a tank of any kind filled. This is solely for distribution to their customers that are located throughout various locations here in Franklin County. We did have a few phone calls on this matter initially, and then when the applicants found out exactly what was being approved and how it was being considered, I think we have resolved all of those issues with the conditions that have been recommended as part of the approval process through the Planning Commission. Again, we did review this for compliance with our comprehensive plan as well as our goals and objectives of our zoning regulations, and find that it is consistent with those. The Planning Commission found it was consistent with those requirements. The staff did also receive a letter from the Kansas State Fire Marshal's office. They have inspected the tank. They feel that with the provisions that are being provided with the tank valves and the locks and the breakaway safety lines, that it will be consistent with all the provisions of the State Fire Marshal's Office for fire protection. We did have one condition that was added at the Planning Commission's hearing, and that was to eliminate the secondary access to the site from Eisenhower. Because portions of Eisenhower, as you well know, are gravel, it's to be, and that is very close to the intersection of Old Highway 50 and Eisenhower, that the location of that access is kind of a nuisance factor for other uses in the same general area, as well as a safety issue perhaps because of the proximity to the intersection of Old Highway 50 and Eisenhower Road. That was a condition that was added by the Planning Commission. They have forwarded to you a recommendation for the approval of the special use permit based on the findings and subject to the conditions then that are attached in the draft resolution that's part of your staff report. I have nothing further to add unless any of you have questions.
Larry, the entrance there is an entrance there off of Eisenhower where that tank is at. Will that logging company still be able to use that entrance going in and out like they have been?
Well, because of the location of the tank facility, and if you look at the little site plan on this, it's going to be fairly close to the road, close enough that the logging people, in all probability, will not be utilizing a lot of that because of the trucking movements coming in and coming then back out. But there are 3 locations where they can utilize access back here. One of those, of course, is further to the southwest, Don, and that is the primary access that the logging people have been using for years.
Well, I think this is probably as appropriate of a site for such use as can be found.
This is Commissioner Dunn. I went out to that site yesterday and talked to the owner, who is will be leasing this site for the propane storage tank, and he showed me what he required of the propane people. The coming in with the tanker trucks to refill the tank, and he does not want them to back up where they're doing their logging business. And there is the road that goes to Eisenhower is there now, and also it exits onto hard surface pavement. And he wanted that to be the exit for the people who utilize a propane facility. They come off of Old 50 with their semi-trailers and go down to the side, empty it, and come out. And he wants them to come out on Eisenhower empty and not being backing up the hill to the logging business. And same way for the delivery trucks that do the same circle route also. There wouldn't be anybody coming in from Eisenhower Road. That'd be just exiting the facility onto Eisenhower Road, which is hard surface road. And that's what he wanted the propane people to do. And I don't see anything wrong with that idea. It's a safer system than what the Planning Commission was requiring with that, having them back out of that facility. So I'm definitely opposed to what the Planning Commission suggested, that they back out of that facility into the activities of the logging business with their trucks. So I just want to put that in, and I'd like the other commissioners to consider that. And I don't see there's a difficulty exiting onto Eisenhower Road at the site, at the same place that there is a road exit there right now. And that's about all I have to talk about this.
Okay,
I
so
think
that
the
would
planning commission ought to rethink this stipulation.
So that would be the sixth condition that was placed on the special use permit. Now, Larry,
Yes.
I don't know if this is a question for you or David, hopefully David's on, but we do limit how close a driveway or entrance can be to an intersection. I don't know.
Yes, that is correct. And that distance is 250 feet. And I don't believe that you're going to find that this little, well, it's not even very improved access onto Eisenhower, but it has been used periodically over the years. But it does not meet that minimum criteria of 250 feet from the intersection. It's also going to be almost directly across from the access into the facilities on the east side of Eisenhower. And these semis that we're talking about, the shorter trucks probably that are used for the distribution can probably make that turn fairly easily, but semis would be covering most of that road surface, and it's going to be right at the access going into the properties to the east.
So, to be clear, striking the sixth condition that the planning commission put on the special use permit would also not conform with our existing county policies.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any interest from the other commissioners? Go ahead, Roy.
Commissioner Dunn, respond to that. That entrance off Eisenhower went to a house at one time, and the plan is to improve that exit to make it a lot wider, so the semis can turn onto Eisenhower Road, and it's down a ways from the actual entrance to Layton Center. It's down quite a ways from it. So, and I don't know about the 250-foot deal on the closeness to an intersection, but that road's been there for a long time. So I don't see it. I don't see that that's going to be a problem. I think it's be a safer situation than having these trucks back out of there, out of that facility. That's all I got to add on that.
To be clear,
This is Commissioner Stottlemyre. I kind of agree with Roy. I understand the talk about the distance and all that, but that's an existing driveway. It ain't something, and the logging company will still be able to use it if they wish. It's still an entryway going in and out. And what I understand with the logging company, they don't want that tanker truck backing back up through their facility and where semis are coming in and out of there. I see their point too on that part, that they figure it's a lot safer for them to pull out forward than it is to back through their facility.
Commissioner Dunn, again, there's not going to be a whole lot of traffic. There's not going to be semis like coming and going every day. It's just
that's correct.
Infrequently they'll be coming, refilling the big tank, and so it's not like it's going to be a big traffic jam with semis coming out of that place.
all right.
That's all.
Commissioner Howard or Dickinson, you have anything you'd like to weigh in on before kind of try and get a consensus about which direction to move forward?
Commissioner Howard, I don't really have an issue with it, and I believe I know what's the driveway they're talking about. It used to go up to that, I believe it was a trailer set up there, so as far as the 250-foot part of it, I think it is an existing driveway that has been there for a long time. I have no issue with it.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. The only thing I would add is that I do use Eisenhower every once in a while to get to my property, and not everybody stops at that stop sign. Sometimes it's a crapshoot whether, I mean, you have the right of way on Eisenhower, but not always do you get it. That would just be one more consideration.
Okay. I think I hear the majority saying that the driveway that's there is a pre-existing non-conforming driveway, and that they'd be willing to make a motion to approve the special use permit application 2009-1792 based on the findings and subject to the 7 of the 8 conditions cited in the attached resolution, removing number 6, requiring only the use of Old 50 Highway. So if that's the direction we want to move forward, we need a motion to that extent.
I just have a question for Larry. If we remove that one issue, does that have to go back to the planning commission to reconsider?
No, if you have a majority of the members of the county commissioners in support of this, it does not have to go back to them unless you choose to send it back to them.
This is Commissioner Dunn, then I will make a motion to eliminate that one restriction on the special use permit and approve everything else.
All right. Anyone would like to make a second? Second that motion?
Commissioner Howard, I'll second it.
Commissioner Howard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. Now to staff reports. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
All right. Derek?
All right, thanks. This is Derek. And I've got a few things today. Janet and I have continued to work with Whit O'Brien on allocating these CARES funds. We've reached a point where, I mean, we're getting late enough into this process that we were going to give the schools and some of the cities a second bite of the apple, I think. Several of our cities just, they couldn't find a use for these funds. Lane, Richmond, Rantoul could not. I think Princeton tried to, they couldn't find an eligible use. And then Pomona and Wellsville have both spent some, but not nearly what their allocation was. So in terms of cities, it's really Ottawa and Williamsburg that have spent their allocation. And then the schools, of course, have all spent theirs. So I think what we're going to do, we have, I mean, it's several $100,000 to reallocate, and I think we're going to work with Whit O'Brien on reallocating that to the schools and the cities that can make use of it. Now, that's to say nothing of money that Franklin County still has within its own allocation, and Janet and I still need to sit down and come up with a concrete recommendation to provide to you. And we've just been trying to get her through the election before we do that. And so we will probably do that in the upcoming days. And eventually we'll be back in front of you because, as has been the case throughout all of this, the board needs to approve of these allocations. And so that will be in front of you. The remodel.
Before you move from that item, can I make a comment?
You bet.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. And at Princeton's meeting on Monday, they actually considered several items with the CARES Act funding that I think would be approvable. They didn't want to contact Janet yesterday on election day, but they are definitely. So before you take it away from them, let them present what they have.
Yeah,
And that's
no, and that's no problem at all. I'm sure we'll reach out one final time to each entity before we make any formal changes. So certainly, Commissioner Dickinson, we'll reach back out to Princeton, and I'm glad they discussed that, because from the very beginning they've been interested in trying to utilize this. So I'm glad that they've come up with something. Hey, Colt, can you still hear me?
Sure can, yep.
Okay, yeah, there was some kind of interference on my end. Moving on to the remodel, that's coming along incredibly well, which I feel like Lloyd Builders has done a great job from the get-go. They got in there quickly and had it demoed and framed, and now they are they've got the soundproofing in there on that west wall, which I think will be great for staff, particularly those that are going to be on that half of the suite, and they're starting to add insulation and drywall. So I think their goal is to have it completed by the end of the year, and they're seemingly on track to do that. We've got our furniture ordered, so hopefully it all comes together and we'll be in there in January. And that's certainly what we're shooting for. I had a meeting yesterday. It was a great meeting with Sari Maple, our HR director, and then Casey, it was about several things, but it was about what post-COVID, kind of what some of our focus will be post-COVID. And I wanted to discuss this with the board because we've been meeting remotely for so long, and certainly I have not been having face-to-face meetings with my staff. But obviously that's all going to change once we get through this pandemic. I've talked to a couple of you who've expressed the desire to have, we used to have lunches where the commissioners would meet with the department heads, and I think we stopped doing it because we were doing it so frequently, but certainly I think somewhere between a couple times a year or at most quarterly, we want to bring that back just to promote direct communication between the board and the department heads. I mean, I will tell you, I tell all of my department heads, they're welcome to call commissioners anytime they want, and certainly keep you all apprised of anything noteworthy that's happening in our department. So I certainly don't think that communication is being missed, but it gives you the opportunity to hear from them directly, sit down with them. So I think once we get through this, we'll talk about it, but that is something I will likely recommend that we do to some extent. We spoke yesterday about a culture committee. That's something that I've wanted to do for some time. That's part of the reason. I think when everybody thinks about Casey's position, they think about external communications, and that's 95% of what she's done so far, particularly with the pandemic. But there was also a part of it involving improving internal communications and improving culture. And certainly Sari, given her experience, is big on that as well. And so that is something that we're starting to put the bones together. And I think particularly prior to COVID-19, morale was good, and I think it is to be what is expected right now, given everything going on. But I think this will help enhance communications between employees and management staff. So we're looking forward to that. I want Janet to talk about the election. during her staff report, but I will just say, I say this all the time, but her and her staff just have it down to a science. They do such an incredibly good job. I mean, all you got to do is turn on a television and you realize that this election period is pretty chaotic. So much going on, but you would not know that if you would have walked into the clerk's office last night. They are calm and collected, and they were ready. I mean, they were ready for this, and we've watched Janet prepare over the last couple of months for it, and it went off incredibly well. And so kudos to her and her staff for how last night was handled. And then finally, COVID, that continues to dominate our time. It continues to be what I spend the vast majority of my time on. And certainly my COVID team is still working hard on that. As I'm sure all of you saw, we saw our largest increase in cases earlier this week. And I think what is particularly troubling about it is it can't really be attributed to any one thing. I mean, we do have a nursing facility that is battling quite the outbreak, but generally that increase can just be attributed to, it's widespread community transmission at this point. And so we will continue to urge people to wear masks and to practice social distancing. And as we've learned about this, we've learned that, when you're outdoors and able to maintain space, I mean, that is an effective way to combat it, but it's November in Kansas, and that's followed by December, January, and February. It's going to be cold. We're going to be inside. I mean, there's reason to be concerned about what this is potentially going to look like. And so certainly would just continue to urge people to, wear their masks, socially distance, and practice good hand hygiene. With that, Colt, I don't have anything else, and I'll turn it over to Nick.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
A lot going on in the health department in the COVID world. As Derek said, we're continuing to see an upswing in positive cases. The biggest concerning part also is we're continuing to see an increase in hospitalizations right now. My last notice, we had 8 with possibly a couple discharging, but I do know for sure there's 6 hospitalized right now in Ottawa. Many conversations we've been having to discuss what happens when we reach capacity. And with, as Derek said, a nursing facility having a significantly large breakout of positives, it increases the chances of that happening. Other things we continue to see are positives in schools. West Franklin High School and middle school took a 2-week break from school, pushed everything back to remote learning due to the fact that they've had positive cases out there, and honestly continue to see some trickle in. Those positive cases have affected their cross country, their volleyball, their cheer, their dance, their basketball. And when you have, 1 student, 2 students that are asymptomatic positives, that's where we see that spread come from. So mask usage is essential for schools. And as Dr. Ransom and I have said, if you both are wearing a mask, an approved mask, that makes you not a close contact. But what we see with sporting events is these kids or groups have to take the mask off. Big concern coming in with the state with us is basketball. Basketball is a close contact sport. There's no way of getting around being in somebody's face. So that's going to bring a whole new dynamic to schools and testing. And honestly, I foresee a lot of basketball being missed due to COVID cases, the way we're seeing the outbreak. So things to prepare for. We do have cases in Ottawa High School that we've worked through. Nursing homes, every Tuesday we have a phone call. We've been successful. It's pretty much limited to one nursing facility at this time, but people are still antsy to see their family members in the nursing facilities. And with that, we've got the majority of them still shut down, the family visits due to the outbreak, but we have one nursing facility opening back up for visits inside, and they've got a room set aside for it. They've got things set up, but through tracing at the facility with an outbreak, there's two possible ways it got there. One with an asymptomatic positive staff, the other one, and the stronger possibility is it came in with family visits. And if you look at outbreaks that we have seen, a lot of those outbreaks are coming from family, friends, gatherings, of 8, 9 people get together, and one of them has it and they spread it that way. So caution people still and to take precautions, even if they are your friends over at your house. Thanksgiving coming on, a lot of activity where people are getting together. So I don't see this ending anytime soon. We've had one local business shut down for a few days to do cleaning due to the amount of positives that were there. One of the big concerns that we have that we look at are the percentage of the positive to testing, and where that really drives is testing in nursing facilities. We're seeing the highest percentage of testing to positives. And honestly, we're not testing as many right now as we were testing a month ago due to people refusing to be tested. So if you look at the last 2 weeks, we've had 117 positives. We've done 721 tests, which is a 16% positivity rate. So that means nursing facilities are testing twice a week. That means that a lot of the testing stuff increases due to that. It makes us a red state or a red county in our state. So we need to see that turn around. Just today, we had 19 more positives come in, if that gives you a perspective of where we're at. So with that, I believe the only other things I really have that we're working hard on is discussing how to test and when to test. The biggest concern is of individuals who choose to quarantine for the 14 days and do not get tested is if you have a family quarantining and one of those individuals becomes symptomatic on day 10, and let's say or asymptomatic even, they're spreading that. So truthfully, the rest of that family needs to quarantine for another 14 days following that person getting off of theirs. So it's an endless battle. If we can get people tested, we can get them separated. We can work with them on how to clean and make sure things are good to help slow that spread. So that's one of the things we're working on real heavy right now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. I don't have a question, but I have a comment that I know that there are some rural hospitals in Western Kansas that their ICUs are full and the nearest bed is in Kansas City, 6 hours away. So I one of the good things is our proximity to additional hospitals that we don't have to, transport them a long distance. If I'm going to hope to God that does not come to a point where we are full, but at least we have options.
And to add to that also, we are in flu season. We have had positive flu tests coming out. We've seen positive pneumonia tests. And this time of year, we already see the hospitals get pressed in a normal time without a pandemic with flu cases. So adding to the system with COVID, we're going to see our hospitals fill up, and that's coming. And at that point, it becomes some pretty tough decisions that we're trying to avoid having to make.
All right, well, thank you for the update, Nick. David Lee, how's Public Works? Let's give David a second to get on the phone. Janet, you had a busy evening.
We did have a busy evening, but like Derek said, we had lots of people ready here in the office to help out everyone as they came in, to get the results reported quickly. We were really happy to be out of here fairly early last night, before 10, and have all of our results reported. We do have a lot of work on the back end to do. As this meeting's kind of been going on, I've been updating my poll pads so that we can get all of the percentages of voted updated, so we have those results to put out there to the media. So we'll just be cleaning up all of our polling locations today. I have 2 people from my office and many other county employees out picking up all of that equipment today, which this is absolutely a team effort by the county. We in the clerk's office could not do this without all of our other partners, our noxious weed employees, our recycle employees, some public works employees. We have a lot of people out helping. Oh, maintenance also. So we'll be getting all of that stuff put away, and then we'll begin going through all the paperwork and processing all the provisionals. Just want to remind you guys that our canvass is set for November 16th, and we'll be holding that in the historic courtroom upstairs, and that is open to the public to view that canvass. As of last night, the count that I had was 343 provisionals, which is a lot. And for those of you commissioners that sit on the Board of Canvassers, we have kind of reviewed with other counties the process for canvassing, and we think that we may have come up with a way to kind of review those in a little quicker manner where you won't need to sign every single one of them. So we're going to be rolling that out this time so that hopefully we can get through the canvas faster and not have to physically touch every single one of those envelopes, because, you know, as we know, we got the poll pads with COVID money so that we could eliminate touching of all the paperwork, and I want to continue to try to do that as we move into the canvas to protect each and every one of us. So we're going to be going through all of those. We still have to convene our write-in board tonight, which is our group of folks that come in and look at each and every ballot that someone has written a name in on and write those all down and make sure that they match all of our tapes. We also still have to convene our audit board, which we will do in the next week or so sometime, to just verify the results of a small sampling of the election, to make sure that everything that we did on election day and prior to that is correct. So lots of work yet to be done.
Well, thank you, Janet.
This is Commissioner
Go ahead.
Dickinson. I was just going to tell you a story. One of my Facebook friends is a first-time election poll worker, and she posted last night that one of the best things that she thought that she saw yesterday was so many first-time voters, and so many of them would either take a selfie or a friend would take a picture of them. They were so excited to vote, and not just young people, but there were first-time voters of all ages. So I think this election of all others, people really finally decided that voting is important, and I think that's great.
I agree with you, Commissioner Dickinson, and I was out at Wellsville yesterday when they had a first-time voter in, and my Wellsville group is a very lively bunch of ladies and one gentleman sitting on their group. And they cheer very wildly and loudly when the person for the very first time puts their ballot in the ballot box. So that's really fun. And then I was at Westminster later on while they had a first-time voter, and when that first-time voter got checked in, they had a little song that they sang to them. So my election workers are a very lively bunch of people, and they like to have fun. They're sitting there all day, and they want to show voters that voting's fun and that we're not just a bunch of people sitting there because we have to, but so many of these people choose to take time off from their daily lives to to help me with this. I have multiple teachers that take the day off. I have someone that works at the hospital regularly that takes the day off to do this. I have Lee Hansen from United Way takes the day off from United Way to do this. I had so many students from, high schools around the county that took the day off to either sit and help at help check voters in, and I also had a lot of them that sanitized for me this time, just doing the general cleaning around the polling location all day. So just so many people took time out from their daily lives to help with this. And like I said, I give credit to all the county employees, but I have to give credit to all of the other people who work around this county that took time out of their busy life to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to vote. So.
It has been said once, but it probably can't be said enough how appreciative I am, and I've heard it from a lot of other folks about how well the election went here in Franklin County, and because of you and your team and the process that you've put together, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Dunn. Janet,
Yep.
Did you get any feedback from the consolidation of the voting locations at all?
So, I've heard from a lot of voters. I can tell you that Peoria was a really tough one for us. And, I know that you, Commissioner Dunn, sat on my committee to review those numbers. And we've traditionally had very low voter turnout at Peoria. But we do have quite a few voters out there. And I will tell you that they responded very well to the opportunity for early and advanced voting. We had a tremendous turnout in both early and advance for our Peoria voters. And the ones that didn't want to early and advance did show up at the polling location. I did create some better signage for this election for them, because that was a concern last time, that they didn't really feel like they knew where they were supposed to go. So I did increase the signage at Trinity for them. Many of my Hayes Township voters, which is another location that was shut down this time, they all go to Ottawa Township Hall now, and I heard very good feedback from many of them. I went out there and visited yesterday, and they said it was very quick and easy to get in and out of there. So I think those voters are very happy with their change. And then I think perhaps the biggest change was the consolidation of Appanoose, South Centropolis, and Pomona. And they thought there was going to be quite a bit of pressure there at that location, but my poll workers had really good feedback from yesterday and from the primary election also, even having to handle multiple ballot styles to make sure that each person's getting the correct ballot. I think that that's been a really successful move. They feel very safe and secure going into Pomona's City Hall building. There's plenty of room for social distancing, and just the space is really good for that. So the feedback on that side of the county is really great. So we had a few other minor changes, like here in the city limits of Ottawa, which people weren't overly concerned about. Just a lot of questions about, okay, now where do I really go? So once we got them all headed in the right direction, no concerns about the changes here in Ottawa at all.
Well, that's Commissioner Dunn again, Janet. Congratulations on a job well done, and to all your volunteers.
Thank you.
All right. David, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Sure can. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Today I thought I'd give you a quick recap of the work completed by the Road and Bridge Department in October, just to give you an idea of the sorts of things that our folks do on a monthly basis. So there were 21 working days in October, and we hauled rock and ran multiple mowers on 20 of those days. The one day we missed was a day that we dealt with the first winter storm here a week or so ago. We also repaired or replaced 5 crossroad pipes, repaired or installed 6 entrances. We had 5 different ditching projects that we worked on. We repaired, replaced, or inspected 187 signs across the county. We have a lot of folks that like to back over those and run over them, so we're quite busy taking care of that. We also picked up trash around the county on 7 different days. We had a crew blade patching for 5 days, and then we had several other miscellaneous projects, such as working on the winter storm. We repaired a minimum maintenance road, and the C&D landfill, the operator out there was ill for a few days, so we transferred some of the road and bridge personnel out there to keep the landfill running smoothly. Today, they're finishing up a ditching project at the intersection of Utah and Shawnee Terrace, and we've got another crew that's starting a ditching project near Cloud in Nebraska. So that's just kind of a general list of things that our folks work on a monthly basis. I would say that it's a fairly accurate and routine list. This sort of thing goes on month in and month out. Also, a quick update on the asphalt overlay and patching job. Kilo is on site this morning up in Wellsville. They are cleaning the roads that are going to be overlaid in several subdivisions and getting ready to patch. So they're anticipating being done with that area by Saturday afternoon. So in the next 3 or 4 days, they're going to knock out that area, and then they'll start moving south. And that's all I've got. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
That's Commissioner Dunn, David. When I was down there by the log yard yesterday, Eisenhower Road, they're about halfway between Layton Center and 50 Highway.
Mm-hmm.
There's a giant pothole or sinkhole in the northbound lane.
Right.
And people are having to go over to the southbound lane to get around it. So that's,
yeah, we have patched on that a couple of different times, but that particular spot is going to be dug out and patched by Kilo as a part of this project.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully that issue and the issue you mentioned last week on Sand Creek there by Eisenhower, both of those locations are on Kilo's list of areas to take care of.
Okay. Thank you, David.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Move down to commissioners' comments. Commissioner Dickinson?
I would just like to say congratulations to some new members of our Sheriff's Department that have recently graduated from the Academy. Deputy Rivers, Deputy Davenport, and Corporal Thompson. We couldn't go, I know the sheriff couldn't go in person, but many of them watched on Zoom the graduation ceremony, so that's exciting. On Monday, I had a Zoom Food Policy Council meeting. Most of it was about a food pilot called Harvest at Home that they're trying to establish using Blue Cross Blue Shield Pathways grant. Basically, it is bringing fruits and vegetables to some of our smaller communities that don't have access to a grocery store. So I think they're going to start with Wellsville and then hopefully expand from there. But a lot of groundwork to do before we can get to that point. On Monday night, I did go to the Princeton meeting. A lot of that meeting was taken up with some of the options that they have for the CARES Act funding. Their community building is going to be used as a secondary site for the Central Heights School District if needed for COVID-related issues. And so they are looking to put in some air purifying units, both there and possibly at the community or at the city building, and some other projects. So a lot of that was taken up on that, and they are continuing to work on their playground. They have recently got their basketball court in, and it has been seeing a lot of use for the teenagers in the community. So that's just a great addition to their park that they are still working on. I did listen to the City of Ottawa study session on Monday. Last year they had approved a rate increase for the utilities, which also included a secondary price increase. This year, they have, I believe, they're looking to go ahead and move ahead with that price increase. They feel like they are still very competitive with the surrounding communities. And so I think that it's a 10% increase that will be seen on the bills in the first part of 2021. And also the Rotary Club is doing a park improvement. I believe it's a shelter house in Kansas Park. But it's always great to have our community partners that are willing to make efforts to improve our community. So we see improvements in the community without government funds being used, and I believe that is it.
All right, well, thank you. Commissioner Howard?
I don't have anything. Derek, I do want you to give me a call at your convenience after the meeting. I got a question to ask you, and I don't have anything else. Cole.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Dunn?
Yes, I got an email from KAC. They're trying to wrap up their annual convention with a vote on the legislative initiative. And the last email I got, they haven't got enough votes yet. I sent in my vote as a representative of Franklin County to the KAC, so they're still trying to wrap up the KAC annual conference. Other than that, we got a lot of good displays down there at City Park for Veterans Day. The display is going to be up now till the 14th of November, so it'd be real interesting to go down there and see what all the displays are for our involvement in world wars in the 20th century, most of them. But anyway, that's all I have.
All right. Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Just before I start, just to remind me, the 16th we'll be having canvas instead of study session at the courthouse, right?
That is what we're currently planning. If there is a need for that study session, we certainly will work on getting that in and then having the meeting, having the canvas.
No study session will be there at 8:30 at the courthouse.
I think we're gonna start at 9.
9, okay. Okay.
Go ahead, Derek.
And yeah, this is Derek. I would plan on the canvas starting at 9. If we have items that we need to have a study session for, I will just move those to the meeting on Wednesday. I think the canvas is a far larger undertaking, so I would say let's get that locked in for 9 on the 16th, and then anything that would have otherwise been on that study session, we will just study at the meeting on the 18th. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I was going to bring this up, but while we're talking about our future schedule, Wednesday is Veterans Day. So
yeah,
we won't have a meeting in a week.
That is correct, yeah. No, that's a county holiday, so yeah, county offices will be closed.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. Is it our time to have to host the city, county, school district meeting, and would that have been the day?
No, I don't believe it would have been today. We normally have that later in the month. And I will tell you, historically, we haven't had them in November and December, just given the holidays and how busy we get. But I think the 18th or thereabouts is when we would normally have had it.
All right. So go ahead, Don.
I'm ready now.
All right.
Okay, I did attend the Wellsville meeting the other night. Biggest thing going up there right now is they're doing a lot of sidewalks. They're doing a lot of new water lines. And their biggest issue, they're working on realignment of that bridge that crosses over the railroad track on 33, close to where, right there on the city limits is going into town. They're having to do a bunch of redesign and working and getting that all, working with the state of Kansas. It's been a long process, and I think they about got it to where it's a go now. Went to Rantill's meeting. The bulk of that meeting was they're still working with Richmond and Princeton to Richmond and Princeton, to do the courts deal with Ottawa and use the Ottawa court. And Rantoul is considering, the Richmond mayor was there and had a long talk with them on how they got entered into it and how they're going. So it sounds like Rantoul's pushing towards that direction also as we speak. So that took 99% of the time of their meeting. So that's all I have at this time.
All right, and I don't have anything I feel like I need to add. Just to recap, next time we'll be getting together is a week from Monday. That'd be the 16th, 9 o'clock at the old courthouse to canvass votes. Derek, anything before we look to convene or finish up?
No, I don't believe so.
All right. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Don, motion to adjourn.
All right. Is there a second?
Commissioner Dunn, second.
All right. Thank you, Roy. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.